Yeah, g'day YouTubers. Tinker O'Toole again here with another video. Yesterday I had fun and games, bent me screwdriver, even bent me little screwdriver as well, trying to get this E-clip off. So I'm going to go over exactly what happened yesterday and why it happened and how I fixed it. But I did a Google search and I found out that I wasn't the only one, and one person, said that they destroyed the clip getting it off. And before, I didn't destroy it getting it off. We'll just zoom in there so you can see it. This looks a little bit different than the normal one. The normal one that you're probably used to seeing is something like this. It still has that cavity, but the E-clip, and I've got a spare one here, there's plenty of room in this for the E-clip to move around. But in this one here, there's no room for that E-clip to move around. It's almost the same size. So it was exactly like this yesterday, and I got the screwdriver, this notched out screwdriver like this, popped it in like that, and all I managed to do was bend it. I could see it was bending, so I stopped. I went back, turned it around the opposite way, straightened it back up, and this was never going to move. I thought, oh God, and I could feel a little bit of play in it, but not much. And I thought, oh, this is a bit odd. Maybe this is a different type of style, because at least with this one here, the older style, there was a much larger distance, much wider than the E-clip itself. So there's a couple of millimeters play in there. And I never ever had trouble ever getting the others off. So I couldn't get it off without damaging it. I thought, I'll go back and have a cup of coffee and I'll sit down and think about it. And I Googled it and I said, E-clip difficult to remove, 500i. And someone in one of the forums wrote the same thing. Difficult to remove, almost impossible. I thought, oh shit, that means virtually you're going to have to destroy the clip every time you want to get it off. Anyway, I don't know why it was. I kept on thinking about it. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? And something dawned on me that to check the brake. And lo and behold, what did I do? The brake was on. Release the brake. Guess what? All of a sudden, all the play, or all of a sudden, where there was no play, now becomes movement. And now it's loose. And then if you actually have a look at it, you can see that now it's easy to come off. Now, I don't want to take it off, because if anyone it's taken them off, you can use a small screwdriver, a scrench. A lot of people use the corner of a scrench and put it in there and flip it out. I've modified this screwdriver so that I just put it in between the two and that'll come out. So I'll turn this saw on the side and you'll see how much movement it's got. And I've been doing this for 40 years with chainsaws, and this is the first time that the chain brake has been on while trying to remove that. I've never had that ever happen to me, so it can happen to anyone, and that had me puzzled. I laugh about it now, but I didn't laugh at the time, I can tell you. So if you have a look now, you can see that movement. Plenty of clearance there to remove the E-clip. Yeah, so now the other thing that was interesting, the reason that I removed the E-clip, it's a brand new saw, was, and lucky I did, would you believe there wasn't even any grease on that. No grease at all. Now, you should have a little bit of grease on them. You don't need much. You do need a little bit of grease on them. And I even put a little bit of copper grease. You can see the copper grease there that's on the spline. So this has got a little bit of grease on it as well. I'll zoom in there, you'll be able to see that there. Should put a little bit on there, even though it doesn't move that much, but there is a bit of movement. Now, the other thing is you don't need much grease on the rollers, the rollers that are in there, because it only spins around at an idle, but nonetheless, dry metal, rubbing on dry metal will cause problems in the future if you don't put a little bit of grease on it. So I just put a little smidgen of grease. You don't have to smother it in grease because you don't want grease getting all over the clutch, but just a smidgen on there so that it's got some sort of lubrication rather than nothing. The next thing I'd like to mention, it was the way I was taught, was that when you put E-clips on, there's a smooth side to an E-clip and there's a rounded side to an E-clip. Hopefully we can show you that. Oh, I dropped it, sorry. Let's see whether you can see that. That is the smooth side, the flat side of an E-clip. Turn it over. That's the rounded side. I think you can see the roundness on the edge. That's because the punch came from the top and punched it out. So you've got your smooth side and your flat side. Now, the rounded side, which is that side there, will have less surface area when it sits in the groove. Not by much, maybe only a couple of %. So it's a good practice that you put that flat side on the outside so that there's more surface area in that groove. When I changed it out yesterday, I noticed that the smooth side, that's the smooth side there, that was facing outwards. So I think you can see that, look, there's a slight little radius on there, not much, but that slight radius still will reduce the amount of surface contact that's in that little gap. So it's a good practice, where possible, that you fit the flat side on the outside here so that it contacts more in the groove. Yeah, so that's very interesting as well. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that when you do change the E-clip, can you reuse it? Yes and no. I've had E-clips that I've reused 7 or 8 times and never had a problem because it kept the tension. Now, yesterday, when I changed this out and I took it off, and I put the old E-clip back on, or the original one, it was loose. I could move it really easy. Now that takes a bit of pressure to move with my fingernail. That's brand new. So if I was to take that off and put that back on, and you could just push that around really easy, throw it in the rubbish, get rid of it. If it maintains a bit of tension and it takes a little bit to push with your fingernail, in other words, it's tight. The moment that you put one of those clips on and it's a little bit loose, throw it in the rubbish, because it'll be getting less surface contact and it could come off. Now, the other thing is, a lot of times they refer to them as a Jesus clip. It's even the steel dealer I went down to, they call it the Jesus clip, because a lot of people, when they try and take them off, they go boing and they can't find them, and people go, Jesus Christ, where the hell did that go? That's happened to me before. Then you learn to put your hand, while you've got a screwdriver, you make sure that you use 2 hands and the other hand to make sure that you can catch it or you can grab it in case it goes to fly off. So that's probably about it. there's not much else I could say. It's something that got me stumped. I've never sort of, in 40 years, normally I can work stuff out, but that had me stumped, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So just remember, people, if you have a bit of a problem and you can't get it off, make sure that you check your brake. Your handbrake is not on, because it got me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.